Welcome to this video where you will learn how to configure BlazeLimb's test types. It will take about 12 minutes of your time. The purpose of a test type is to define the characteristics of a particular result value captured and tracked by BlazeLimbs. Result values may be measured, observed, calculated, measured and then calculated as one result, long text as in paragraphs of text, captured files such as Word documents, spreadsheets, and images, and imported from other systems. You can refer to the BlazeLimbs Lab Manager's Guide section L-TTY for detailed documentation, and you can contact the BlazeLimbs hotline for additional help. For best video quality, follow the instructions shown here. To configure a test type, select the Configure Test Type menu item. Next, entering meaningful name. In this case, we're setting up a test type for pH. Before we continue, let's consider the issues associated with specifying test type names. Let's think for a minute about test type naming conventions. It's important to remember that test name will be visible throughout BlazeLimbs, and a convention should be established to ensure maximum effectiveness throughout the life cycle of the limbs. Some issues to consider are that it's usually best to represent the property being measured, irrespective of how it is measured or what material is being tested. Special cases might be things like viscosity at 20 degrees C, which in fact is a different property than viscosity at 40 degrees C, although both are viscosity. Also, use industry standard names where available, for example, the analyte names from EPA methods. For a particular method of measurement, remember that no single test type may be duplicated, as this would lead to ambiguity. Note that the maximum length of a test name is 40 characters, although the full 40 will not be visible on many screens. If possible, avoid ambiguity when the full name will not be immediately visible. It's usually best to make the names LIMS user-friendly rather than conform to names used by instruments, legacy systems, contract labs, customer reports, and so on that are less friendly. Translations in the LIMS are available to produce reports or receive data from these other sources. One decision that needs to be made early on is whether to use mixed case or uppercase names. Mixed case are usually more friendly and more visible, but uppercase may be used in special cases to conform to laboratory practices. Finally, it's important to avoid analysis paralysis in determining your naming conventions. Remember that names can be easily changed later in the configuration process as you find out that they're not optimal. Once you've selected a test name, then enter a description. A description is usually a more elaborate or detailed definition of exactly the same thing, and often used on reports for more friendliness to the final user. You can then enter a CAS number, a storette number, a local test name. Local test name is often used as a translation value from inputs from instruments or a more user-friendly name to put in certain reports. Finally, optionally, you can pull in a material type from the inventory system. A test type must be specified as one of 8 kinds. Let's pause for a minute and discuss each of these in turn. Result values may be acquired in a variety of ways. MES indicates results that are measured using a device or instrument even if the values are manually read from the instrument and entered. OBSV indicates results that are derived from human observation apart from a measuring device. None indicates a placeholder test type that does not have a result value but is usually used to delineate a set of other test types. Calc indicates results that are calculated from other values, such as other results, aliquot sizes, and so forth. For calc test types, you must specify an equation that provides the result value. MCal indicates results that are measured and then calculated from the measured value and other values. For MCal test types, you must specify an equation that provides the result value. Long indicates results that are text values longer than the 15-character maximum. For example, paragraphs of text, extra long values such as mold species, and so on. A file indicates results that are captured files, such as Word documents, Excel workbooks, images, and so forth. IMPO results are imported from other enterprise systems using the Blaze LIMS import function, such systems such as SCADA, LIMS, and so on. This does not include values acquired via instrument interfacing, as they are a MES type. Once you've selected the type of result, you may optionally enter a units of measure. Units of measure may be selected from a help table if you've chosen to configure it, or you can manually enter them. You can also go and add an entry to the help table via this edit button. Note there are some helps here for special characters such as degree and micro. A system configuration parameter determines whether your selection or entry of a unit of measure is validated against the table or not. You may also enter a domain if it's appropriate for the particular test type. There's a help screen available. In addition, you may go create a domain if it's required for the particular test type that you're creating. You may optionally enter a format code for this test type. It indicates the precision of the data to be entered or created, and does reasonableness checking on the values as they're entered. Format codes can be numeric integer with a specified number of digits, numeric fixed point with a specified digits to the left of the decimal, and a specified digits to the right, exponential with 2 digits to the left, a decimal point, and a specified number of digits to the right, the letter E, followed by 4-digit power of 10 exponent. Numeric significant digits with a number of S characters to indicate the significant digits, and the total size of the field to indicate total number of characters. A text field with X's to represent any alphanumeric character, and also the number of X's specifying the maximum length of the field. Date-time format in various forms. And finally, rounding is either odd, even, or truncate as specified in the system configuration. For odd even, 1.235 would round to 1.24 since the 3 is odd. 1.225 would round to 1.22 since the 2 is even. Truncation formatting would always round down. 1.235 would round to 1.23. It's important to realize at this point that result type, engineering units, domain name, format, and equation can all be overridden at the method level, so that you might develop a value of pH via a measurement in one method, an observation in another, and a calculation in a third, each one producing perhaps a different precision, or use a different set of legal values in domain or a different equation. The values in this case that are in the test type are the starting point or default values that would typically be used, but can be overridden at the method level. It may also be useful to configure aliases. These are alternate names for the test type that would be used by other systems to which the LIMS is interfaced. In this case, for example, the Orion pH meter uses an all uppercase pH value. Another useful feature is the References tab, which shows all the methods that reference this test type and all the sample types that reference this test type. Finally, you can add any number of comments and look at the audit trail of all changes that have been made to the test type. Next, we have an example of an OBSV test type, color visual. Note that OBSV test types usually will have a domain assigned with the legal set of values that can be entered. They will also tend to have text format. When assigning domains, it's important to consider whether the proper location for the domain assignment is at the test type level or possibly at the method level, so that the legal values can be limited to an appropriate set. Next, we have an example of a calculated test type, namely density. Note there's a units of measure grams per ml, a format code which is applied to the results of the calculation, limiting it to 3 significant digits after the decimal. Also, we can now enter an equation name. Equation definitions will be covered in a separate video, but we can use the Edit button to examine existing equations or define an equation. Note that this particular equation references 2 test types, final weight and tare weight, which must be in the same sample as is calculating the density, and then the aliquot size for the method that is creating the density. So we're dividing a weight by the volume of the sample. The MCal test type is very useful in avoiding the definition of 2 test types, one measured and one calculated, when a simple final result is desired. In this case, we have color X, where we enter a numeric integer value, but our final value we desire is scaled by a value of 1000. Consider, for example, a method that may have 75 to 100 analytes, each of which must be submitted to an equation for calculating a final value. MCal can be useful in avoiding scaling up to 150 or 200 analytes and making the analysis process much more manageable. The long test type is provided to allow the entry of a paragraph of text as the result value. In this case, we have an adenovector sequence, which might be a paragraph describing the results of the test. The file test type provides for the capture of a file, whether an image, a Word document, a spreadsheet, or any other file. In this case, we are capturing the colony count image file to include it as part of the results. This does complete our training on the setting up of test types.